So, for those of you not in the know, Sony released a hold on. Let's actually take a step back here. I believe Sony's decision to go all in on live service games really does have to be studied, because we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this discussion about the fact that Concord cost $400 million. By comparison, the entire creation of Avengers Endgame by itself was $357 million. This game cost $50 million more than Avengers Endgame. It cost $50 million more than Avengers Endgame to end up. Where was its Steam charts? Because the Steam charts currently for it are gone due to the fact that the game was basically taken offline. But I believe that while its peak concurrent players for Concord was 697. That was its peak. Its all-time peak. Let me put that in. Let's say that one more time for the people at the back of the gallery. A video game was created. Not a new concept, not reinventing the wheel, an Overwatch reskin that somehow found a way to make Overwatch slower and more mind-numbing. An Overwatch reskin cost $400 million to create. In comparison, a movie like Avengers Endgame cost $357 million. So I don't believe in summary execution. I don't believe in taking the rabid dog to the back of the house like this is the country and putting it out of its misery. But if Sony decided tomorrow to drag whoever this person was that wasted all of this money and throw them off of the top of Sony headquarters, I could not blame them. Like, imagine for a second, you have $1,000 in your account, right? We're gonna keep it low. Like, imagine you've got one band in your account, and imagine your boy hits you up and he's like, "Yo, I got a great investment. We're gonna start a podcast, and all I need is $800 to get this joint started." And you're like, "This sounds like the greatest idea you've ever come up with. Here's my G." And your boy goes off, burns through the $1,000. The equipment doesn't work. He bought the wrong software. The computer crashes and burns and self-combusts. Like, the computer literally commits seppuku the second you plug it into a power source. And when you go to speak to him, he's like, "Yo, I know you only lent me a G, but now we're in debt for about 23,000. I'm fairly certain the vast majority of us would run hands with our boy. We fucking him up. You getting your ass beat. It does not make sense to me that a video game that has yet to come out and prove itself, that when it was released on closed alpha and beta, got horrible feedback and low attention, to the point that there was barely anybody playing both in the alpha test and in your open beta test. It does not make sense to me that Sony would be like, "Hey, How you doing? Here's $400 million for you to create the game, create episodes around the game, because this game was supposed to launch with fully rendered 3D cutscenes every single fucking week for like a whole damn year, or like half of a year or something along those lines. Book content on the background explaining the world and the concepts and the way in which things operate and yada yada yada. Like, it sounds like Sony believed that they were working on Destiny, where they were like, yeah, here's $400 million for you to, like, you know, develop the game and develop an entire universe. Because I shit you not, Colin Moriarty came out with just stellar reporting on his part, where it was internally referred to as the future of PlayStation, with Star Wars-like potential, and a dev culture of toxic positivity halted any negative feedback, which means that you believed you were working on the next big franchise for PlayStation. And when people came at you with negative feedback like, hey, character movement's a little bit slow, hey, the fact that after a round your character basically gets locked and you're not able to play them anymore kind of sucks, hey, the super system is kind of whack, hey, the progression system is kind of fucking mediocre and we've seen it in like 100 games, you believe that your creation, and don't get me wrong, you know, as somebody who creates content, and as somebody who's worked on projects that create certain systems, it feels great when that thing goes live and it fucking works. But the reason why it works is that there are people on your team, and not only people on your team, people outside of your team that do Q&A testing, that sit down and look to see whether or not the systems in place are good, whether or not the menu system is intuitive and it's really, really easy to navigate, whether or not the way in which you set up the UI has people's eyeballs going to the specific location that you want them to, where they don't have to wander around the screen too much in order to see whether or not they're low on ammo or what their objective is or something along those lines. Outside feedback is invaluable. The idea that we blew through, that Sony allowed them to blow through $400 million before there was anything to show for it is diabolical. It is insane to me. But on the exact same level, literally across the street, we've literally watched Bungie catch fire and burn down for the last 2 months. That building is still on fire. The flames haven't died down. No matter how much they're like, oh, we're doing a Titan rework, and here's our roadmap, and this is what we've got coming up. No, that building is still on fire. The fire has not ceased. The fact that the live service game that people wanted, which was Last of Us Factions, I don't even know if this one was called Factions. Factions was from the first game. But the live service game that we kind of wanted, which was this game where you're playing as a survivor and you're using, let's say, the entire city of Seattle, and you could have it as something that's an extraction shooter or something that's just a straight up survival game where you spawn at a random location in the city and they're infected everywhere, and then there are other enemy faction types, and you're working your way through the city to get to a exit point, or just a straight up multiplayer game where you drop people onto this really, really big open map and it's just essentially a battle royale. Who knew what they were going to cook? But the House of Bungie arrived and was like, you have to build your game like mine. It has to be like Destiny. Everything that you're doing has to shape and look like Destiny. It has to have the Destiny feel. You have to be able to sell a battle pass, a dungeon, a raid, 17 cosmetics, 15 weapon skins, and a bunch of other shit in your game in order for it to be successful. baffling. Absolutely fucking baffling. Like, this may go down, to be quite honest, this may literally go down as the greatest flop of my generation. The greatest gaming flop. Like, we thought, you see, I was born just a little bit after the shovelware era, where, like, you know, landfills were being filled with cartridges for ET. I was born just slightly after that. I missed that little era, that little phase, you know, when your boy was coming up, his first console was a Super Nintendo. I was just outside of the range of that little era that was happening right there. This right here has to be the greatest flop ever. Has to be. There's no way you're telling me that you sat down and you spent big money. You spent damn near $500 million. $500 million on a video game with nothing to show for it. With everyone outside of your studio saying this game is a piece of shit. Or no, I'm sorry. Not that it's a piece of shit. Your game's just not good. It's not grown. It doesn't have that joyous feeling of like Valorant or Overwatch or even Marvel Rivals, which is going to be a free to play game that people loved and adored. Thousands of people played that beta. That your beta didn't even break a few thousand. That your launch didn't break 768 players on Steam. There's no way you're telling me that you sat back and you believe that you were creating a franchise that was going to come out the gate and be bigger than Star Wars. How? Destiny has been out for 10 years. I would say the closest franchise that could probably reach Star Wars level, if it decided to start reaching into other media like anime and movies and TV shows, would be Destiny. Something that would be able to reach into Star Wars would be The Last of Us, with how fantastic the TV show was and how they could create more stories inside of that universe in either TV show form or movie form. So, oh my God. And people got mad at the developer for Space Marine 2 being like, hey, why don't we make games go back to the old way in which they were? Where a studio makes an entire game, no grift, no battle pass, none of that shit. Everything is unlocked through playing. 20-hour campaign, multiple hundreds of hours of multiplayer, multiple cosmetics that you can get, and then maybe 6 months down the line we'll drop like a $20 like expansion with more missions in a planet or something along those lines. People clown that man. Yet when you sit back and you watch the absolute devastation that is happening over at Sony for this live service direction they choose to take, crazy. And then right here on the side, Bungie is reportedly considering a $40 price tag for Marathon. That shit is going to flop. The exact same way Concord is fucking up right now is the exact same way you're going to see Marathon hit a wall and fall into the same bottomless pit. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it at all. I don't get the design decision. I don't get why there was such of a major push towards like, no, I understand. I know the reason why we got into this. It was because of the amount of profits they saw during the pandemic. But the pandemic times are over with. The fact that this game was still cooking for the last 4 years, and this is as far as you made it, and you didn't even break 1,000 people, no. You deserve every single bit of the failure that you're literally still going through and dealing with right now.